keys is by the door. Even like you say, brushing your teeth and stuff, everything is lined up according to how I do it. Do this first, do this first, or so it's all lined up in a row. So I put it back where it's supposed to go, pick up the next one. For things that I do off my calendar, it's on the calendar. And I look at my calendar. Is it on there? Yes, then I have to do. That's where I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to do. So I like to even schedule phone calls. Oh, dude told me to call him back. I like to put in calendar, call back, boom. So when I look at my calendar, okay, I know I got to call this person back at that time. Otherwise, sometimes I write out on my whiteboard, all my thoughts, and then I come to my house. It's right there before I go past anything. I look at it and I check stuff off, and I go, okay. I put dates on when to do by. I'm going to do on this date, and that's how I try to maintain what I want to do.
That's good stuff. And you have a whiteboard. Is it pretty big? And where's it located?
It's located in an area of my house where it's the first thing I see coming in, the last thing I see going out.
Nice. Right. That's good stuff. And so, honestly, what a big thing he's getting at in this chapter is just all the things that we do to help out. He's particularly mentioning, like you mentioned, the chorus, the saying that before you walk outside the door. I feel like he'll probably touch on what you were talking about a little bit later with regard to putting everything in a certain place, it being in a certain order. I struggle with that. Like I am always misplacing my keys. It's always everywhere. And I am still trying to figure out the lesson of like, how do I intentionally like grab everything and put it in certain places so that it's where it's supposed to be. And that may be something I could do, maybe like a certain time each night and set an alarm for that. Okay, go put your keys away, go put everything where it's supposed to be, so tomorrow you're not like, because I'm the one. My wife is good with it. She's like, I got my keys, it's always right there on the door. I'm like, I'll be right back. I gotta go find them. They could be in the room, they could be in the kitchen, they could be in the living room, they could be in the basement, they could be in the car still. I don't know where they're at.
You're the kind of person that needs more than one set then.
Exactly. Well, maybe, but at the end of the day, that I'll probably have them again 3 different places, and so I just really need to make sure that I'm putting them in the right places as well. But I think just what you were mentioning, it's all about finding ways to intentionally put things in our paths, finding ways mentally, like you were just saying, whether it's singing it like a song, just saying it to ourselves. I know when in high school, I learned to count the periods of the day. So whenever I get home, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I think about, okay, what do we have homework for first period? Do we study that? What do we have to do for second, third, fourth? And to even just go through that process of like trying to either recall it, just help me to even think about homework. Honestly, some nights, junior high school, elementary, if they don't, my parents don't bring it up, I probably won't even think about it. But once it got to high school and college, it was okay, now I gotta like intentionally remind myself of all the things we did, what's due, when is it due, let me go check this, go look through the bag, did I get anything that I forgot about? Having things on the wall, that's something that was super helpful for me. It makes me think about doing that again, writing something on the wall. I used to have this one piece of paper that I wrote down all my goals on and like cross them out and write new ones on, and I had it in my bedroom, but I don't have it in there anymore. So I definitely am thinking about that. But apart from that, one thing that he spoke to was pointing and calling. So rather than just saying it under our breath, saying something out loud on purpose, saying something, or pointing at something on purpose, or just doing something with our body intentionally. So like I said, for me, for remembering to put on deodorant every morning, I lift my arms up and I check to see if I can see the the liquid. If it's under my arm, if it's not shiny, I'm like, okay, you didn't put any deodorant, you put some deodorant on. But if it is, then I'd be like, okay, I already did it. But sometimes again, I'll forget, and I'll brush my teeth, I'll dry up, and I'll just walk out, and I'm like, oh man. And so that's one thing again, you don't want to forget deodorant. That's not a good look, not a good smell. When you're hanging out, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's fine. By 2, 3 o'clock, you're like, yo, I don't have deodorant. Like, that is not okay. Like, I smell it. I don't like how, whatever. So that's a whole thing. But he did mention putting things on a habit scorecard. And I really like that because he's talked about just taking note of every day of the habits that we do on a regular basis. What do we do in order to remember to eat healthy? What do we do in order to, if we're going to clean up some things, if we're going to organize some things, what are the things that we do on a regular basis? And really just kind of like getting a good list of all the habits that we do on a regular basis. And eventually we could go back to that habit list and start going, okay, well, this is one that I don't need to do in the morning because that's not helpful. That doesn't make me want to do what I want to do. And one thing that you mentioned, William, when you were talking to Mr. Brookter, that he mentioned in his chapter when you were talking about the art, and it makes you think too about what Nancy's dilemma and so forth, is he goes, a habit is a good habit or a bad habit if it is in line with your identity. And you were like, if it's something around art, then I know that that's probably what I need to be doing, or to intentionally keep involving myself around art and artistry. And that's the habits that I want to continue to implement, and not only implement in my life, but to make sure that I keep up every single day. But he also says the way that a good habit is a good habit if it is something that will give you good results over a long period of time, right? So if you did that for the next year, would that be something that's good for you? Or would it be something that adds up and it ends up being bad for you? So whether that is, eating something extra at the end of the day, or eating something extra between dinner and lunch that you probably shouldn't eat, is that going to give you good results over a year's period of time or 2 years period of time? Those are the types of things that are ultimately going to determine whether that habit should be replaced, whether that habit should be, you create some obstacles so you don't do those types of things. We talked a little bit last week about the importance of taking certain things out of your environment. So this weekend, my wife's grandfather had a birthday party, and they gave us all this cake and sweets and pies and stuff like that to take home. And on Monday, we actually we didn't have to work on Monday, but on Tuesday, I put it all in a bag and I gave it to my son. I said, take it to school and give it to your friends, whoever wants some, whatever it is, but we can't have this in the house. Because I know, just because it's in the house, we're going to eat it. Not because we have a hunger for it, not because we really miss this type of cake, but because it's in the house in the first place and it's just sitting there, we're going to sit there and at least consider eating all the pies and the cakes and stuff, rather than passing up on it. And so some things that we just want to straight, flat out remove from our environment is going to help us to not do certain things. And then some things it's going to help us to make it difficult for ourselves to do those things by setting up different, if you will, obstacles, make it harder to do, make it something that you can't easily access. Like I said, when it comes to different foods. So even if it's a food that we want to have in the house and we don't eat a lot of it, maybe put it in the back of the refrigerator or put it in the top of the cupboard. So if you have to get it, you have to get a chair. Now I got to get a chair to go get these cookies, and I don't want to do all that, so I'm not going to do it. But just doing things based on that type of understanding that you want to make it easy to do the good things for your life, and you want to make it hard to do the hard things, or make it hard to do the difficult things. Things that aren't going to give you good results in the long run. And so I'm going to read these two paragraphs, and then we can take the quiz based on the things in these answers. So if you guys can take some notes, I don't know whether it's your phone or your laptop. I want to make sure you guys take notes on these things here.
Can you see?
The word is late. You know what I found with the essays?
And I will be reading it,
Is it
so.
from the chapter 4? Okay, you can read from the book. Alright.
See, you taking notes from the screen?
I'm gonna read it as well. And so it reads, chapter 4 is about learning to be conscious of the things that we do unconsciously. A quote James Clear refers to is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it faith." And that is really important, so I'll read that one more time. A quote James Clear refers to is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it faith." A big part of implementing a new habit is recalling what you want to do at a certain time of the day. One thing that helps with that is giving ourselves cues to remember these things. One thing that James Clear gives an example of is pointing and calling. I think that's super key. Pointing and calling, whether it is our voices or body movements, James Clear advises us to use all of our senses when giving ourselves these cues. One thing he suggests, move this up, one thing he suggests that we do is track all of our habits that we do throughout the day. When we track these habits, we could use the habit scorecard. The habit scorecard will help us to become conscious of what we do unconsciously. Once that is understood, we can then judge whether or not the habit is good or bad. We can judge it based on what results it will produce in the long run, or whether or not it supports our desired identity, which is, again, is super key, because there may be an identity that we're trying to develop, an identity that we're working on keeping. And so if we want to do certain things in line with the desired identity, then we are going to be making some changes and implementing new habits. And so definitely want to understand that those are two things that will determine whether or not a habit is a good habit. It gets us to our desired identity, or it produces good results in the long run. I believe, let me see that. I know I actually did send out the quiz, chapter 4 quiz. Did you send it to their emails, Maya?
I did.
Okay.
Let me know if anyone got it. I can send it again.
back.
The little part that you just read out is what helps us with this quiz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you finish, Nancy?
Mhm.
And William, have you finished yours?
I'm still looking for it.
Someone said it takes, 21 days to form a habit. Is it 21 or?
I've heard that. Yeah. And I do definitely think that it helps to look at it in those terms, because again, consistency is the biggest thing. It's trying to intentionally be consistent, which again is hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, is the hard thing. And what it feels like is there has to be a certain level of structure to our days, to where there's not like a whole lot of variety, a whole lot of movement, but just this is what I do on Mondays, this is what I do at this time of day every day. And once you can stick to a certain routine, then that helps is to stick to the habit, even if it's a habit that you don't particularly like doing.
Okay, yeah, I'm finished.
Okay. Alright. So the first one, this chapter is about learning to become conscious of the things that we do unconsciously, and what is something that you do unconsciously to remember what you are supposed to do or have throughout the day. And so we talked about those things as examples. One thing that James Clear says that train operators do in order to conduct a safety check is pointing and calling.
I said I got it wrong. I put on the call.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, we can fix it and address it. What I've learned is that if you don't put the exact way I put it, then they'll mark it wrong. But we can definitely correct that. One bit of advice that James Clear gives in order to effectively recall what we are supposed to do at any given time is to use all senses. Right. So, sound by saying something, smelling certain things, which is interesting because I never have like a certain smell in my kitchen that makes me think about eating, but that's a thought.
Make yourself conscious.
Exactly. But one example he mentioned was how when we go certain places that do have certain smells, it makes us think, okay, I want to at least try this, or I should at least go and see what they have to offer. I think about when the Mexicans are outside and they're cooking the chicken on the big old grill, and you see all the smoke going in the air and stuff, and it hits you, and then I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't even think about chicken, but they got that smell going, and I'm sure that it's totally part of the plan, right? So they're gonna smell this chicken, and they're gonna be here in 5 minutes, and so that's definitely a thing that restaurants and cooks play on. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that was the 2 words that I wanted to have put in those. In order for us to take note of the habits we may be doing unconsciously, James Clear suggests that we track them on the habit scorecard. And those are available in the book as well. There's a link, I think it's jamesclear.com/media or atomichabits.com/media, and we could get some of these worksheets. So I did actually do that when I was going through the book the first time, and I'm sure I'll be doing that some more. So I definitely encourage you guys to print out some of these sheets and see what they can be. Print these worksheets out and see how you can use these different worksheets to your advantage, right? Help you to write down the topics, write down the habits, help you to keep track of your habits. There's a habit tracking sheet as well that I'm sure will come up in a later chapter. So there are different things that would be helpful for you all to print out and utilize for yourselves. The label good habits and bad habits isn't very accurate. There are either effective and ineffective habits. What determines a habit's goodness is whether or not it supports your desired identity or delivers great outcomes in the long run. What's an example of a good habit and a bad habit that you have? And so honestly, while I wanted you guys to, have the right answer, I did want you guys to think about your personal habits and things that you're working on and things that work for you. Can someone answer that? What's a good habit that you have or a bad habit that you have that you also want to break?
I think a good one is I like listening to podcasts. And then sometimes I do get on Clubhouse. Clubhouse?
Yeah.
And depending on the topics and stuff. And I like the fact that everybody's hiding. You cannot see their face. They have all these emojis and they can just get on the mic and say whatever. But it depends on the topic. And there's some for Black consciousness and stuff I like listening to. So I've made it a habit to just listen to something good or some thought-provoking conversation. Or a podcast that helped me one way or another. The bad one is waking up to social media. It's terrible because if you read the first bad news, you're just gonna be bad, moody the whole day. Yeah, so I'm trying to cut that. Maybe start with reading before I get up. Or meditating. I don't know. I don't meditate for long, so I'm trying to really learn how to meditate at least 5 minutes without my mind wandering.
Right, exactly.
It's really hard. So that's a habit. Yeah. So I'm trying. I think I'm gonna try that and use the habit scorecard. And because I hear some people meditate for 30 minutes. I'm like, what?
Right.
Did you get?
How do you accomplish that, right?
I'll be at Costco, I go back, I'll be at Target, come back.
Right. I gotta get this, I gotta get that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the scatterbrain, it's really hard taming.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's real. And again, even the social media stuff, it makes me think about maybe charging your phone in another room. So when you wake up, the phone's not right there.
Oh, right.
Which is hard. I'm not even going to say it's easy, but it has crossed my mind too. I haven't been, because the first thing I do in the morning is when I wake up, I do check my phone, but immediately I have to get up, get dressed, and go and work out. And I feel like it's not a big problem to get on social media in the morning, but insofar as I do want to not be on social media, even at night, right? If I'm going right before bed, I think that's one thing that crossed my mind this week is if I put my phone charger in the hallway, charge my phone in the hallway, then I can not, you know, be on the phone, you know. Let's say if I wake up early, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I won't be like, let me look at my phone. So just changing little things like that just helped a little bit.
Right.
William, any habits that you have, good habits that you have that you've set up, or ones that you want to break?
One of the good habits that I try to utilize is using positive affirmation language. It helps to de-escalate problems as they're arising, especially between people. It helps me even with self-talk
Right.
to not, be discouraged, but to always be hopeful and thinking through what positive steps I can take to do whatever I want to do. So that's something I try to, a positive habit that I would try to. A negative habit is not being ready and waiting as opposed to waiting to get ready. What I mean by that is waiting to the last minute, like, okay, like I gotta come here, I gotta be here at what, 10:30? I know it's gonna take me a half hour to drive, but then I'm not calculating any traffic delays,
right.
detours. Like today, there was a detour from my regular driving routine, and it threw me off. I almost missed court on time, getting there. So I like to get up, get dressed, take a shower, do all those things, and then sit back and go through my emails and do all the things that would generate a whole bunch of time where next thing I look up, oh, it's time to go. Am I ready? Am I pushing out? So I do that a lot. I sit there and I start going through my emails and checking off things. Oh, I got about 45 minutes. Let me knock this out. Let me get up and get ready, be dressed, and then I can move out whenever I need to. So that's the bad habit I have.
Yeah, no, it's real. Whether it's traffic issues. I'm coming from not from Oakland, from Richmond, and there could be traffic issues. So I tried to leave this morning as soon as I could. I probably left the house like at 8:45. Sometimes I could leave at 9:15 and still get here on time, but you just never know. You just never know. So it's something we just gotta give ourselves time, extra time to get certain places because things change on the road, Even getting pulled over, right? Oh, get pulled over, oh man, now I gotta answer questions, that's gonna take another 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And so all those little things, it doesn't hurt to be early rather than just being on time. The only other thing I wanted to emphasize before you guys left was the SMART Goal portfolio. That next week we want to do presentations around that. So in preparation of the graduation will be June 26th. I know we sit down and email this week, and we'll continue to send out emails about that, just like reminding you all that we do want to have RSVPs, who's going to be there, who can you bring, or who do you want to bring rather, and then who, what will be on the agenda and what we're going to be doing. What I do know is we're going to invite a couple of special guest speakers. We'll also be having people from if you will, the alumni from other cohorts that joined. That will also be invited. With that being said, we're looking at doing it at 1420 Yosemite, which is a warehouse that YCD has. And in that warehouse is where we have a number of events there, big events, smaller events, but there's just like a good amount of space there. And so we'll be doing that ideally starting around, I would say 11:30, 12 that morning, the 26th of June. And one of the things that we want to do is have people share, what they would like to share about the program, about what they're learning, what they're coming away from the program with, what they learned while they were in the program. And so with that being said, this SMART Goal portfolio that we'll be presenting for next Thursday will just help us with talking about our journey, talking about where we're at currently, but also talking about where we started and what we're trying to do in the future too. And so I do want us well, I'll ask that. Can we show up in person next week? I can, of course, like, make room for that. That would mean that we would show up in person next week, possibly, definitely on the 13th. And I'm even thinking about meeting in person on the 20th again, simply because the person that's going to come is going to talk about fundraising. But it's someone that, again, I just want us to do our best to be present, because what ends up happening if we're virtual, either people don't make it in the virtual, or they on the virtual call, but they're not actually present. They're having to, run errands, they're at work, they're picking up a kid from somewhere, something like that. And so we want to just try, at least for the last number of meetings, to try our best to be in person, just so that we can give it our undivided attention and, hear what the speakers are saying. Just like with today with Mr. Buckner. Like, I was glad that he was able to show up on Zoom a couple weeks ago, but then I'm like, it'd be better if he's right here. We can ask him directly certain questions we have on our minds. But if we're virtual, then we probably won't ask as many questions. But I do know that people have worked on this. People have probably actually completed this completely. And so that will make, talking about this pretty easy. But I just wanted to make sure that it was on you guys' radar to complete it if you haven't completed it. And to, especially something like the resume part, the SMART goals part, refining it if you have to, but definitely putting answers to these different things, even the professional photo, just so that we have a good working knowledge of what you have. And again, if you present next week, that'll definitely give you space and time to be ready to present if you are willing to for the graduation. And that will give people, the opportunity to get to know more about you, your organization, what you're doing. And that would also give us a good reason to invite people from the community to participate too, so that they can learn more about what you guys are doing with your organizations and what you're trying to accomplish. Let me know if there's any questions, but the biggest thing, is just getting ready with the SMART Goal portfolio and making sure that you all are reading the book. Make sure that you guys are reading the book. Honestly, the chapters are pretty short, so it's not like you guys have a whole lot that you guys have to do for the reading for each week. But definitely, again, it's going to just continue to get more and more concrete in terms of not only how to set up good habits, but how to track these habits, and whether or not we're tracking them. So again, by the end of the program, we'll be having, some testimonies about, okay, I started to try to do this week. Okay, I'm going to try to do this week at this time of the day, blah, blah, blah. And, we can find ways to hold each other accountable and help each other to implement the habits that will help us to reach our goals. Again, does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So for the SMART goal, is it just the worksheet?
For the SMART Goal portfolio?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that those things are completed. We can talk more about, how it's been going in terms of the goals that we set for ourselves, and what we accomplished. But I think the biggest thing, is just making sure that the worksheet is completed. Are you thinking about the one pager?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the one pager is critical. I would definitely, with that being said, I would say in terms of the one pager, I would say let's continue to work on that. And if we want to, it can be something that is utilized after graduation. But again, based on the conversation that we've had with with Dr. Smith, the biggest thing is going to be the SMART goal portfolio.
Okay.
Cool. Well, yeah, we can start to get ready and pack up. I hope that you got some good time and got some good questions asked with Mr. Brookser. I know when he's talked about the fiscal sponsor, have you guys considered much about the fiscal sponsorships?
No, I didn't know you could get fiscal sponsor when you already have a 501.
Yeah, I think you brought that up when Mr. Williams was here. Yeah, that training. Yeah, I think that's a thing that maybe again can be brought up to them and say, hey, would you accept us being that if we already have the 501c3 status? But I definitely like the idea that he brought up of having like proof of concept. Like, hey, you help me with all the back end stuff. I'll make sure I get this program going, and we'll see how it works in the community and how people like it and stuff like that. Yeah.